Hi everyone, welcome to the latest and greatest episode of Failing Up. I'm your host, Claire. Today I'm sitting with the lovely SKV who previously worked at Salesforce and then found his way into a company that blew up, and then now he runs his own cannabis venture firm. He is here to share some of the personal lessons as well as the professional lessons that he's learned from a company failing, working at a Fortune 500 company, as well as starting his own thing. Shahbaaz, hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
How have you been, Claire?
Good. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. How long has it been?
I think I don't know, 3 months, 2 months. I met you at the Andrew Young event.
That's right. That's the only Andrew Young event I've been to, and it resulted in a podcast appearance.
Let's go.
Let's go. Shout out Andrew's Mixers.
So diving right into what we were talking about, which is obviously the topic of failure. What is your relationship to failure?
Oh, that's such a good question. That's a really good question. I have an amazing relationship with failure now, but previously I don't think I did. And so now I really approach failure as a mechanism for growth and learning and getting better and development, versus when I was growing up, failure was the thing that I probably feared the most in the world.
Mm-hmm. And it was because you grew up, I think because you grew up in more of like an immigrant household, they have a lot of pressure on you. Tell me more about what that was like.
So my family is originally from East Africa. When my family moved here, we lived in a house I grew up in a house of 15 people for like the first
15 siblings?
No, so it was like my dad, he has 3 brothers, and then of course my aunt and my 3 aunts, and then my mom, and then I had 4 cousins, and then my grandparents and some other like cousins and things like that. So yeah, there was like 15, 16 people, and I was the youngest of all. And so I got to see everything unravel, but that also resulted in, honestly, like a lot of pressure. Like growing up in my household, it was like school, some religious stuff, and then sports. Like those are the only 3 things that I was expected. So it's like, if you're not getting 90s in school, or it's like, why aren't you getting 90s? Why are you only getting 80s? If you're not like crushing, it at sports, it's like, why? If you're not making sports teams, it's like, why aren't you making sports teams? So yeah. So it was like a big thing growing up, where it's just like, you have to overexceed, you have to continue. And it's like, if you failure, like in my household wasn't like, no one rewards failure. Right. So and I grew up with a lot of immigrants as well. And like, they were all like that as well. Like whether they were from like East Africa or Jamaica or, wherever they were from, it was like the same thing. It was like, you can't fail.
Why is it that it seems like immigrant families put so much pressure on their kids to not fail?
It's such a good question. I think it's because they don't feel that there's another option. It's not like, oh, you failed, like great, like there's a plan B. Like there's only a plan A. And the plan A is to, like, you're coming to a new country, you need to find a way to win. Like it's a survival thing, I think, first and foremost. And I also think it's like a social thing, right? It's like, if your kid is doing, what they're supposed to be doing, their definition of winning, then it's also like, you feel good in the community. You feel like, oh, like, my kid's going to Yale. Like
my kid's a lawyer.
Yeah, my kid's a doctor. My kid's a doctor. Yeah, exactly. So maybe that's why.
So how did your relationship with failure evolve? Tell me about your first failure where you were like, okay, all right, this was a big mistake. First failure.
Very, very like most massive, like first, like real failure was, I think it's strange to say, like I've obviously had failures throughout my life, but the one that I was like embarrassed about was I was like 21 years old, or 22, 23 years old. So that was 10 years ago, believe it or not, in case you were wondering how old I am. So I was 23 and I was working at Salesforce, which is big tech company, really well known for like sales and like leadership and progression. And I was doing really well there. I started there as an intern, and I moved up to, business of SDR, BDR. And the whole time when you're at Salesforce, you're surrounded by people who are extremely competitive, who are extremely smart, who have amazing, degrees, who have amazing work experience. Like it's really the creme de la creme. I honestly don't even know how I like got in there, but I did really well for like the first 2.5 years. I was an intern. I had a really good profile. And there's like a big jump from like business development rep to account executive. The biggest thing is like in business development, you're just kind of like building pipeline, right? You're not actually closing deals. And so the skill set of closing deals is like the thing that's going to progress you like into the rest of the company. And if you don't make it there, then you really get pigeonholed into like, one place, or like you literally get managed out, I think. And when I was at this company, I was like doing well and I wasn't so self-aware, but I had like a really good group of friends, and, we were all like rising the ranks together. And the account executive interview came up, and pretty much all I had to do was, and I'm going to use this line, and it's not a great line, but I'm going to use it. Pretty much all I had to do was not like go in there and like shit on the desks, and I would have gotten, I would have gotten the job. And I pretty much did that. That's the only thing I didn't have to do. And I went in there.
What was the story?
The story is that it's a story of like I wasn't self-aware, and I was like, I didn't do the work to get in there. I thought I was just like guaranteed the job because of who I was, and I thought like the people, like the managers in there, I thought because I had a relationship with them, like I wasn't, I didn't have to necessarily like impress them. Mm-hmm. But two, because I wasn't self-aware and because I didn't prepare and I wasn't like they're my customer, I went in and I talked to them basically like they were my friends, which wasn't good. And when I talked to my friends sometimes, we were talking before this and I was saying some ridiculous things. But when I talk to my friends, it's like, it's a little bit more casual. And pretty much I was asked how I like negotiated a specific deal. And there was a follow-up question, and I might've said something similar to like, it's how I negotiate with like my girlfriend or something like that. That just didn't go well. It was like it didn't land at all. It's very terrible. And pretty much I walked out of there and I thought I crushed it. And turns out it was like one of the worst interviews they've literally ever had, ever.
Stay humble, King.
Ever. Fuck. Sorry. It still brings me back because it's like, holy shit. And it's ridiculous because my brother at the time was at the company, and my brother was a rock star. He like moved up the ranks. He like carved new paths. And one of his friends was the manager interviewing me. And so he called my older bro, and was like, this happened. And my bro was just like, what happened? And like, genuinely, I couldn't think, I couldn't talk, I know it sounds ridiculous. It's like, oh, you didn't get your AE interview. But like at the time it was everything to me because it was also my environment. And it also meant more money, more career progression, more opportunity, more access to different things. Like that was the thing that catapults you. And yeah, I just remember that was my like ultimate biggest failure, but I'm so happy it happened. I'm like extremely happy it happened. I got an opportunity a week later, just based on all the work that I put in earlier. They gave me another chance, and I ended up getting the job, which also then gave me a chip on my shoulder when I was in that job, because I felt like I didn't deserve to be there, which then led me to being one of the youngest President's Club winners that year. So like went from not getting the job to basically a year later going to Hawaii is like the top 10, like the top 10.
What's President's Club?
It's like the top 5 or 10% of the company.
They fly you to Hawaii?
They fly you to Hawaii for like 4 days if you hit your number. And that year we had a private concert from Usher. Yeah.
Salesforce?
Yeah,
I beg your pardon?
Yeah, look them up. They're crushing the game right now.
I didn't know.
They've
I
been
do own some Salesforce stock, but I didn't know they have Usher performing private.
They got a lot. You should, if you ever get a chance, go to Dreamforce. But that really like catapulted me into like the next thing, and was one of the reasons why I was able to be like, all right, listen, like maybe failure is actually like it's when you fail, you feel embarrassed, you feel naked, and I felt like naked. I felt exposed, and it put a different type of armor on me that now like I was telling you, I actually go embrace failure as much as I can.
Yeah, you said you seek it out. How do you seek it out?
I do seek it out right now in my current life. So after I got the job and got to AE, I stayed at Salesforce for like another 3, 4, 5 years. And then when I was 27, or 26 or whenever, I got an opportunity to like manage a team. I got an opportunity to like manage a team. And it was like everything I thought I'd worked for and dreamed of. Turns out it wasn't like what I wanted to do. Cannabis and crypto were like really hot back then. So this was 2018. Both those industries were like doing really, really well. And I turned down an amazing job, left the golden handcuffs, broke up with the girl I was seeing at the time, who I was supposed to essentially marry, and left it all behind and went into an industry called cannabis, which was heavily stigmatized, wasn't legal, was like all these different kind of crazy things. And I went to a company, and through that life, I put that life to the side for a second and just like went and embraced the unknown of what that did. And honestly, it made me where I am today, like that move. And so that's how I've gone and embraced failure. Because I could have, literally everyone was like, you're insane for doing this. Like people stopped talking to me. My mom almost like disowned me for like a second there.
What was that like?
She was just like not happy at all.
Is it because of the cannabis?
Yeah, like what's she gonna tell her? What's she gonna tell her? Her Indian, like what are the Indian aunties gonna think of me? You know, like how she talk about it. And the only one who's like do it was my dad, because my dad's like relationship with failure is he's always been an entrepreneur, so he's like failed a zillion times, but like kept going. He's also always been an athlete, and that's why I think like sports, entrepreneurship. The more you can create, the more you can build when you're younger, the more you can learn to fail. It's only going to prepare you for like what's to come in the future. One of the things I was talking to my friends about the other day was kids today in Canadian soccer and like grassroots soccer in America, they don't play with a score. So
what do you mean?
There's no score. They don't keep score.
I played soccer.
Now,
score.
Now, like I think it's like 5 to 10-year-olds don't keep score in their games, which is
that true? Is that actually true?
Can we get a fact check? I'm just out here spitting, but it could potentially. I think it's true. It might be overturned. I don't know, but I know in Canada it was a big thing for a while, and I'm like, how do you do that? You need to teach.
What's the reasoning behind that?
Because it's the exact opposite reasoning of what I believe in, which is that everyone's just trying to learn the game. You need to work on skill set development versus like focus on winning and losing. But guess what? Like life isn't fair, and like real world.
Not everyone's a winner.
Not everyone's a winner. Yeah. There's a lot, like this was a talk I gave yesterday, which is like, it's amazing that people are in the industry that I'm in, but it's like really hard. Not everyone's going to win. Like just because you're in the game doesn't mean you're going to win, or doesn't mean, so anyways, you have to lose to be able to appreciate winning. I think I agree. Is where I'm going with that.
I think when I was playing soccer when I was a kid, I heard one of the parents say, like, why are all the kids getting a trophy? Not all the kids are good.
I don't want to go. And when I have kids, hopefully if I'm blessed enough to, I don't want that. No, like we're practicing winning, losing. Like I'm going to make sure, like if we're playing table tennis, like I'm not taking it easy, if we're shooting. Oh, I'm just kidding. Sometimes depends on how old they are. If they're 6 months, 6 months old.
Yeah, okay. You cut them some slack. Okay. So now that you're working in the marijuana industry, like what are some of the biggest lessons you learned in working in that industry? Not necessarily through failure.
It's a good question. So one of the reason I think we got on this was because I told you about the story of the first cannabis company I was at. So, go to this cannabis industry company. It's about to go public. There's nothing better than hope of a company about to go public. Like everyone in the company is like, I'm going to get paid. And there's like so much.
What was this company? Like
it's called Lift & Co. And it was basically, think of like a Yelp. You go on Yelp to find restaurants, you leave reviews on those restaurants, things like that. So this company was essentially the Yelp of cannabis. You'd go online, you'd find different strains, and it wasn't like it was a good company because that didn't exist yet. The Yelp of cannabis didn't exist. And so because we had all that information, we could repackage, all the reviews and different things. We could package it into like media. And we launched something called Cancel, which is the first government mandated like retail training program for like all the frontline staff. And like we did like a whole bunch of cool things. And I actually got to like help take them public and ring the bell on like the venture exchange on the day of Canadian legalization, which was like monumental in terms of like, where the industry in the world is going. But when I was there, I thought that like, once you go public, it's all good. Like you're good. Turns out it's the worst. Like I don't know why. I don't know why companies go public. It's funny to me. I don't understand it. I negotiated a deal, my salary at the time, and I got 10,000 shares of it, and I was like, fuck yeah, I got 10,000 shares. Turns out when a stock is worth 0.01 cents, those 10,000 shares mean absolutely pretty much nothing.
So what was that feeling like?
It was again.
And how did that happen? How did that series of events happen?
It's from overspending, not being self-aware enough. As a head of sales, I realized that like I can help drive revenue. Like we took revenue from like, I think when I came in like 1.8 mil to like 10 and a half in like 18 months. Like we grew substantially, but we also had a crazy burn rate. We had like a $60,000 a month office, which we like didn't need. We had like all these different things. We were like the CEO spending lavishly. It's, when money's abundant, it's I think we IPO'd at like, it was small. We IPO'd at like $65 million, but for like a 32 person company, that's pretty good. And everyone was like happy, and like, just, we lost sight of the business, I didn't lose sight of the business, but there was a losing of sight of the business overall. And it was amazing when we ran the venture exchange, because if you post a picture of something and people are like, oh, you made the right move, like you made the right decision, like you get to have all these experiences, and then people are watching the stock, and then it goes down to like 1 cent, and then it gets like delisted. Basically what happened was COVID hit, and our revenue was contingent mostly on an event business. We were trying to pivot into a data company, but we received most of our revenue from events.
Okay.
And so we were trying to make this like really messy kind of pivot without like the right strategy.
And this was during COVID?
And this was during COVID, and then COVID like really got worse, and we couldn't throw any events anymore. So we didn't have any cash to essentially fund the rest of the business. And no one was really at the beginning of the days like of COVID, like lending more money kind of thing. And so yeah, we got delisted. I was in Brazil for Carnival right after kind of COVID, or like right during it maybe. And like I was on an earnings report, and I said to my friend, I was like, I think we're going to run out of money. And we got delisted, and the company went under, and I
didn't try to fundraise any.
Tried everything. But also I wasn't the CEO. I was just the head of sales. I had no clout, I had all the clout, but I had none of the clout, if you know what I mean. I could do all the things as related to like revenue, but as soon as it came to like the other pieces of the company, the raising, the financing, whatever, I didn't have like that level of clout. It was very like CEO is like the person kind of thing. And so it was a valuable lesson, because you control what you can control, and I learned a lot of valuable skills, but it was embarrassing, and it was essentially a failure, because everyone was like, well, you left the best company for like a company that just like hit a peak and then died. And I was like, that was the best, because I got to see that not every company is going to be successful. And it takes so much to run a company for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and be successful every year and deliver returns. And like, I got to see what it's like on the other side of delivering no returns.
So I guess diving into more of what went wrong with that company, what were some things that you noticed? Like, what were some of the early signs that you noticed that, okay, like this, we could be running into bigger issues?
I think a lot of people, and this is just like an analogy for life, I think a lot of people, so I believe the more we know in life, the less we actually know, legitimately.
Tell me more.
Well, like, the more I know, we just met. Right. So now we're talking. The more I know about you, you're obviously, we have our guy right here who's, running, the
Manhattan Lab.
Manhattan Lab. Okay. If whoever's watching this, I know some people in my network are going to watch this. Rent out the Manhattan Lab. Okay. And yeah, we'll rent out the Manhattan. What was the question? I'm just kidding. Actually though, what was the question? It was, what were some lessons? Okay, so number one, more you know, the less you know. So I was explaining that now now the fact that I know a little bit more of you, I now know him. And like, now I know, now there's like a zillion different options and a zillion different ways that I can learn more, kind of thing. And that's what I mean. It's like the more you get into something, you're just like, whoa, there's like a whole labyrinth here. Right. And I think that's a really pivotal way to look at things, because as soon as you start to think that you're the smartest person in the room, or as soon as you start to think that you know everything, or as soon as you start to think that like that, you're unable to absorb new information, and you're unable to change your mind or leverage the new information to, put together ideas that weren't necessarily there in the first place. Mm-hmm. And so I think the biggest thing is understanding like what you do know and understanding what you don't know, and being okay to maybe be wrong. Like, it's ego. The number one thing is ego. For when something goes wrong, it's chances are you weren't able to like, put your emotions aside or put your own, ego outside of it. And so the biggest lesson there for me was like, I got to see that at work. Like, a lot of decisions were made because you didn't want to admit like, hey, maybe this isn't the right decision, or maybe we shouldn't, acquire this, or maybe we shouldn't do this, or maybe we shouldn't go down that path, I think is number one. Number two, I think it's how you respond to failure is really important as a public company, especially if you fail. You really can be like, well, we failed because of this and this and this and that. Or it's like, hey, actually we failed because we didn't. So it's like taking ownership of the failure is another thing that I think was a lesson.
But how does that reflect on like investor sentiment when you say, hey, actually we messed up big time?
It's the only way to do it, instead of driving more expectations that like, because of externalities, or because, I mean, obviously there's reasons outside of your control that you fail, i.e. COVID, mm-hmm. kind of thing. But the idea, and this is just me, I know nothing about nothing. This is just me talking kind of on my perspective. I think if you're building a company, a public company, we live in a world where instant gratification is like, investors are like, if you didn't give me a return, then like, I don't want this. But then you have, the Warren Buffett style where you hold stocks for longer. You get to actually know the company. You get to know the people behind the company. And if you build a loyal shareholder base based on who you are as an organization, and being able to own when you have failure, it makes you more endeared to your shareholders, and more endearing to the fact that they're probably going to want to trust you and hold, everyone makes mistakes. It's impossible to think in life that like everyone makes mistakes. You make mistakes, your parents make mistakes, everyone makes mistakes. And so if you failed, it's like better to be like, hey, I failed because of this, this, and that, and we're going to do better, versus trying to be like, no, like we're going to lie to you about like the expectations and the earnings reports. Obviously you have to do that a little bit as well, but it's, and I think the lesson I learned from that was we just tried to continue to just push a narrative that was like wrong. So then the next time we failed, and we just like we were like going on like a failure, like funnel, right? Failure funnel, patent pen that.
Right? What would you have done differently? If you were the CEO of the company, what would you have done?
You're on fire right now. I don't think I could have been the CEO, to be honest. I always say, I was like, fuck, I'm so happy I wasn't the CEO. I think I would have, I think I would have been more fiscally responsible is what I would have done. I would have said no to, lavish stuff. Like the team didn't need like these amazing backpacks, like I know that sounds trivial. It's like, it's like 10, maybe like 10, 12 grand there, but it's like, you do that a bunch of times. It's like, maybe you have money for later, that like, I would be more fiscally responsible with some of the money that we spent on things that literally did not matter in any shape, way, or form, probably. That's what I would have done better. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting story. So what are you up to today?
Great question.
The cannabis industry.
Okay, so I do a bunch of different things right now. If you know me, if you ask anyone who knows me, they'll probably say I do everything and I have 14 jobs, but no one actually knows what I do, which is
I'm one of those people.
Which is amazing. But we just got to know each other. So right now I run a VC in specifically focusing on like the global cannabis industry. So I either like invest in help operate or advise anywhere from like seed to series B orgs in the cannabis industry, anywhere from like, $5 million in revenue to like $250 million in revenue kind of thing, somewhere around there. And then I also host a global podcast. I run a leadership group. And I co-founded the Canadian beach soccer team. So I took that soccer stuff pretty
That's so cool.
seriously. Yeah. And that's what
You
I'm
guys
doing.
keep score?
We do keep score.
Okay.
We-
Okay. Good to know.
we keep score. But honestly, I wouldn't have done all this. So really quickly after Lyft, after it went under, that's the reason I got this job at this company called Dutchie, and they raised $600 million over the course of like 2 years. And I got like a really good understanding of like what that actually looked like. And like to see a company do that is like,
You're talking about the fundraising part?
yeah, just like to see a company raise like $600 million is amazing. And then, to see that company, change its whole leadership and, just like morph into a company that like it's not the same company that it used to be, because when you take on all that money, like things have to change. So it was like a really good front row seat and like an experience that I would have never had Lyft not gone under. And then after I saw Dutchie raise that $600 million and change, and I was there for like 2.5 years, I like completely switched around and ran a magazine brand, and called Kind Media. Yeah, it's a cool magazine. We've had like Wiz Khalifa on our cover. We've had David Ortiz on our cover. Paulina Gretzky. I don't know if you know who that is. Chelsea Handler. Dustin.
Who are those people?
You don't know any of those people?
Well, I know Wiz Khalifa, but I don't know the other.
You don't know any of those people?
No.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
Do you know who Chelsea Handler is?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you know?
Okay, educate me on who they are, please.
David Ortiz, incredible baseballer, Hall of Famer.
I don't watch sports.
What do you watch?
National Geographic. I don't know.
When was the last time you watched National Geographic?
Probably 2 weeks ago when I was watching a rerun of some ocean show. I don't know.
Do you prefer ocean or do you prefer land?
Ocean.
Ocean. Interesting.
No. You're not interviewing me. Nice try.
So now we know a little bit more about Claire.
Go back to talking about, first of all, who those celebrities are.
I can't remember who I said. Okay, Paulina Gretzky is Dustin Johnson's wife. She's also the daughter of Wayne Gretzky, who's like the most famous hockey player. Dustin Johnson's like a really famous golfer. Wiz Khalifa is a rapper.
Yeah, yes, of course.
Sure?
I love Wiz Khalifa.
Yeah. Chelsea Handler
Black and
is
Yellow, fire song.
Yeah, it's a fire song. I think Chelsea Handler is an actress. I don't know. She's pretty famous. But anyways, other famous people, and that's what I did. Kind, and then I quit that after 2 years because I was like, I'm finally ready to take all my skills and put them together and run my own firm, which is what I'm doing right now.
But I want to backtrack for a sec. How did what were some of the lessons you learned from the failure of that first company that you took public? How did that apply to what you did at the company that raised the $600 million?
I didn't, when you're growing up, you think everyone's got your back, and everyone, like, when you're in school, you're like, okay, like a teacher's got your back, and then you do your homework, and then you progress the grade, and then you're in university, and that kind of like eases off a little bit, but they're still like marking you and things like that. And you're like, at the end of the day, like this person has my back, or like these people have my back, or this culture has my back. And like, I think the one thing it showed me is like work's not actually a family. And like some people might not have your back. Some people might not be making the right decisions for you or based on like the commonality. And so I think it made me a little bit more, I'm a pretty like positive, happy person. I don't say naive because I really like trust everyone. I believe in everyone's like goodness innately. And I think from that company, just seeing some of the decisions that were made, it maybe gave me like a set of armor that's like, hey, maybe you got to, get to know people more, or maybe you got to believe that, hey, like you got to protect yourself a little bit more, if that makes sense, in an organization. So like,
but what were you protecting yourself from?
Well, like maybe not showing all of my cards at one time in certain ways, or like, again, like believing that people have your best interests at heart, I was more of like, I don't say like a lone wolf, but like I was a little bit more skeptical of things. Like I didn't just, oh, we're raising $600 million and that means our valuation is going to be at $4 billion. Like amazing. Like just because someone says that doesn't mean it's going to happen kind of thing, you know? And it's like, buy all our shares.
Actions over words.
Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a lesson. And the second lesson was probably being okay with something not being okay with something being like a period of time kind of thing. So for a long time, like I'm not good at letting go of people or letting go of things. And it's like, you know, you meet someone, you have a relationship, or, you know, you're at a company and you're like, I'm here forever. Like this is where it's at. That's how I felt when I was at Salesforce. But Lyft imploding so quickly gave me the lesson of like, hey, like maybe this is just a chapter and maybe I'm just supposed to learn something. So the way I look at life now is like in every experience or everything, I'm like, what's one like tool I can use from these learnings or these failures or whatever to like add on to like my belt of tools or my fanny pack of tools or wherever you carry your tools in today's day and age. So.
And what are some of those
tools? Some of those tools?
Yeah.
Is that written on the paper?
What? No.
Did you know that?
Keys and the like key tools that you have in your fanny pack?
We didn't talk about that question. I'm just kidding. All right, I'll tell you two, and then you have to tell me two.
What are tools that I have?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
Go for it.
Okay, my number one tool.
Ooh, wait, no. First, you have to tell me professional tools and then personal tools that you have that you've learned from previous relationships. Dive into professional first.
Okay, cool. But personal is tough. But they're kind of one and the same, but I'll try and answer it differently. First professional tool, they might be one and the same. Believing in people. That's number one. Like not believing people, but believing in people. I think there's a distinction there. Belief in someone is free. You know, like it is, and you don't have to, and there could be value from it, whatever, like, or there might not be, but like, you'll never know that unless you actually believe in that person. Most people just want to be believed in. Most people want to just know that someone has their back or that, you know, and once people feel like they're in an environment where they can, this is going to be so good. Once people believe that they're in an environment where they can fail, watch the things that will come, watch the yield that will come with that. Because when you remove the fear of failure, I'm not good enough. I'm being interviewed. I always tell people after I interview them, after they get the job, after I hire them for something, I'm like, I already know you're good. We interviewed you. You can just be like, go create, go fail, go build, go do whatever. But like, you don't have to impress me or try and like work around this anymore. Like I already believe in you. You're good. And now you have this failure environment or, you know, free of judgment. And like people can just be themselves. Which motivates them, which, you know, adds so much value to them, you know, their outlook, et cetera. That's number one. And the second professional tool in my belt is definitely being able to have people like put deals together. So if you believe in different people, and then you're also, this is my personal one, curiosity is a personal one. If you have curiosity and you believe in people, and they feel valued, you can put a lot of deals together, and people buy from people at the end of the day. And so much of my job today is helping companies grow and drive revenue and do all these different things. And the only way that happens is if, you know, deals can be done. So anyways, that's my answer. Is that a good answer?
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your answer?
No, I'm not done. Let's talk about the personal.
Okay, so do you remember the personal one I said? The first one?
You said it was curiosity.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. It was curiosity. I was just testing you because we're on camera. So,
okay.
But you passed. All right, it was curiosity, and it is. You're not gonna be happy that I'm about to say this. Are you ready? It's kindness. It's like.
Okay, first of all, why wouldn't I be happy that you're saying that? I beg your pardon.
I don't know. I thought you were gonna chirp me and say that's a cop-out answer or something.
No, not at all.
Kindness.
As long as you give me a good reason for why.
Okay, fine. So the magazine I used to run was actually called Kind, but same kind of reasoning behind belief, which is kindness costs you nothing. It costs you absolutely nothing. And I think that's why I love New York City, is because if you're a moment of kindness in New York City can literally change like anything. It can create an abundance of opportunity. It can make you, get on a podcast to talk about failure. Like you can, whatever. You were pretty kind to me. I'd argue, and I responded to it, and we struck up a conversation. Right. When I walked in here, everyone was kind, and that, if people weren't kind, then maybe I would be like, where the fuck am I right now? Right. But it helped me feel comfortable. And so like holding a door for somebody, holding a door for somebody has like the most dividends ever. So next time, if you take nothing away from this episode, hold someone's door tomorrow.
What makes you say, like, what is an example of a time that you've held a door and it's led to a different outcome?
Oh man, that's on the spot. So many times. I'll tell you what I did the other day. I held the door for, I'll tell you. I held a door for a gentleman in Williamsburg when he was going into his restaurant, and he was carrying some boxes and he was struggling through it. I held the door for him, and I thought nothing of it. And then like 3 weeks later, I ordered from what I thought was the restaurant that I was at, but turns out it was actually like, in Park Slope. And so I was like, oh man, I'm not going to get this. It's going to take me an hour to get this food, like whatever. And so I called them. And the gentleman who I held the door for, who I didn't know, he picked up the phone and we just had a conversation. We were nice to each other. And he's like, oh, like, you know what? I'm personally going to come, drop off your food. And when he dropped it off, we realized it was, we realized it was each other. And he remembered me from holding his door. Turns out it was his restaurant. And he owns like a bunch of them. And now we're friends, and I've thrown some events there. And like, it's just been,
oh my gosh,
yeah, just
that
been
is
like,
such a cool story.
Yeah, it's just been good. It's been good. So he's been like one of my like top friends here, which is great. So, anyways, it's your turn, I think. Now.
Okay. For which one, personal or professional?
I want to start with personal first. Okay.
So you're going to hate my answer so much.
How do you know that?
But I'm going to say it's the same thing. I think kindness. No, because hear me out. Okay.
All right.
Let me tell you.
Let's go.
The philosophy I have before everyone starts laughing at me. I think a small act of kindness is like, if you do one thing a day, a small act of kindness, it can also lead to, I don't want to call it like dividends because that seems so transactional, but
what like loser said that?
You can like a lot can come from it. So basically, when it was Halloween, I was working and I was talking to John, who you met earlier, and we were talking about like, I was like, what if I handed out Halloween candy, because we had extra Halloween candy. What if I handed out Halloween candy? Do you think anyone would accept it? He's like, probably not, because it's New York. Like,
did you buy the Halloween candy?
No.
Okay.
It was what we had left in our office. Okay. Anyways, so we had this Halloween candy, and he was like, I bet if you go out and give it to people, maybe people will accept it, maybe people won't. So what I did was I had like 5 pieces, and I was like, all right, I'm going to see how many people reject and accept my candy until I run out. And I thought it was going to be maybe like a couple people would reject it before accepting it, but it was 5 for 5. And people's faces lit up. Like, I tell you, they were almost skeptical of what I was going to talk to them about. I was like, oh, excuse me. And then they would look at me like, what is she doing? And then I'd say, oh, happy Halloween. I gave them the candy and I smiled. And there was one guy who was like, thank you so much. Like, I gave it to a driver. I gave it to a random guy walking in a suit. I gave it to these 2 guys who were sitting on the staircase, and then a couple others. So I think just seeing the look on their faces and how happy it made them, I think was really valuable.
Candy is not good for people,
it's right? Just, so. It's the spirit of it.
Okay, fair enough.
And then the other example is giving someone a compliment per day.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I told a guy today I liked his suit. I was like, I love your suit jacket. It was a beautiful blue color. I was like,
love that.
Love it.
I love
so
that.
I would say that's my first one. And then my second one would be, don't take it personally. Just don't take it personally. Don't take anything personally. That's something that my dad has always told me.
How do you not take something personally though? Like, what does that, like, how? Because we all have emotions. We're all human beings. Like, how do you, what's your process for not taking personally?
You have to look at it as if people's actions towards you are a reflection of themselves and not a reflection of you. So take it for what it is, but also remember that, okay, this is not who I am. This is who they are. Like, if someone hurts you, if someone wrongs you, it's not me, it's you. Does that make sense? And I think if you...
What if it's you though?
Well, then yeah, take accountability.
Okay, all right. No, I'm just playing.
But yeah, so that's
cool.
another one. That's something my parents have always taught me because I have a lot of anxiety. I feel like I'm a very stressed out, high-strung person, and not taking it personally reduces that, like, a lot of the burden, the emotional burden off of me. And then, can we go back to you? Or
no, you got two. Give me your two professionals real quick.
Okay. Professional tools in my toolbox. I would say if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Interesting.
I have dealt with, like you, I've dealt with my fair share of companies spending a lot more money than they actually had. And I think that doesn't result in good things. And I think people, when stocks go up, crypto goes up. I worked at a crypto company.
Cool.
You think like you're on top of the world and everything's going amazing, and then you can lose it all in a second. So
balance. Okay.
Yeah. And then number 2 would have to be network is your net worth.
Oh, I totally agree.
There is such a big importance in your network. Like, most jobs I've gotten have always been through meeting someone, knowing someone, which you can tie back into the act of kindness because you don't know what can happen from that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Nice.
Enough about me.
Awesome. Did he know all that about you?
I don't know, Matt. Did you?
Matt, did you know all that about Claire? Did you know her tools?
He knows me pretty well.
Okay.
He knows me pretty well. Matt and I are besties. Okay, we're completely derailing off of the conversation about you. So, what is the hardest personal lesson that you've learned?
Oh, okay. I know
you're thankful for.
I know we have a hard stop, so I'm going to try and rip through this. My brother doesn't talk to me. He hasn't talked to me in 4 years. And it's strange because you don't ever think that can happen to you.
Can I ask why that happened?
Do you want the PG version or the R-rated? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. There's no R-rated version.
Okay.
I think we, like, from an early age, we were just, we were always, the times we were the happiest, we were competing on the same team together. But we also competed a lot with each other. And I think that led to conflict. And I don't think we ever had a really healthy way of solving conflict. And so I think we look at the world. It's funny, you can grow up with somebody and you can have completely two different perspectives on reality and like how to solve problems. And, I believe anything can be solved and anything can be talked out, and there's you can disagree amicably. That's the biggest thing, is like disagreeing amicably and being able to be like, I actually disagree with you. Like, cool, still want to hang out. You still want to, like,
yeah, especially if it's your family.
Yeah, especially like older bro, younger bro. And so 4 years ago we had a conflict that wasn't that big, but we talked a little bit about your act of kindness a day compounds. When you don't talk about things, or there's something that's happening with someone that maybe you're upset about, and you don't air that out, or you don't resolve it, like, it builds and it compounds, and like the smallest thing can set it off, kind of thing. And so the biggest lesson, and so for a long time I was like, hey, like, I was trying to be like, I want to talk to you, I want to do this, I want to do that, like buying him gifts. I was like doing all sorts of different things, but I realized, like, it's not 99.9% me. Like, it takes 2 to tango. And I think the biggest understanding and the biggest lesson I learned from him not talking to me, he still doesn't. I hope he does at some point talk to me. And he's gonna watch this one day. Okay. He better. Shout him out. I'm gonna give you his name. Okay. I'm kidding. Okay. The biggest lesson I learned was that you want you want your happiness, and my happiness is like, hey, I would love my bro back and I would love for him to talk to me. But his happiness is actually like, actually, I don't want, that energy or the energy that we create in our relationship to be around me because it gives him a level of stress and anxiety. And so the biggest lesson I learned was, for me, I want him to be happy, even if that equals me not being happy about him being happy as a result of me being the thing that doesn't allow him to be happy. So, but it's a good lesson because you think, oh, I want this person to be happy because I want this, I want this, I want this. And it's like, actually, no. Like, that doesn't include you. That's okay. If you genuinely love someone, you want them to be happy, whether that includes you or not.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the lesson.
Do you think you guys are ever going to speak again?
I mean, we got to.
Do you still like send him messages and stuff?
I sent him a birthday message. It was November 7th. I think he read it. I'm not sure.
He read it?
But we have like similar groups of friends. I mean, we have the same parents, so.
Yeah, it's your brother. I just think this is like a brotherly tiff, It has to be.
I honestly, yeah. And it's like 4 years, like, time heals all, and like time does its thing. And I'm sure, you just chip away kind of thing. But simultaneously, you would never want anyone to come to the table and only be like, okay, like it's 100% like you. It's like you'd also ask, or I'd also ask for the self-awareness to be like, actually there's a reason that conflict happened, and it just can't be one person because, not one person creates a conflict kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry that happened, but I'm sure you guys will speak again.
I think based on this podcast,
after he sees this podcast, he's going to be like, all right, let's
what would you do if that was a catalyst? That would be the greatest testimonial ever.
I'd be very happy.
Yeah.
I hope, if you're his brother, I hope you speak to him.
Look, to tie that all around, that's probably my biggest failure, actually. Like, that right there was that I enabled that or let that happen to get to a point where we've now lost 4 years. Even though it taught me a really good lesson, I'd argue that that's probably like my biggest failure.
Mm-hmm.
And you were worried about surface level initially based on our 2 minutes of conversation. I feel like we just got really deep.
Why are you exposing it all?
I feel like we just got really deep,
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming. It was lovely to have you on. Please tell people how they can stay up to date with you or check out what you're working on.
Well, you just signed up for my newsletter,
I
right?
did.
Which is fantastic. I'm looking forward to your feedback. www.readpolarisperspective.com. readpolarisperspective.com. LinkedIn, Shahbaaz Kara-Virani. Instagram, S_KARA_V. YouTube, hit me up. I'm on there. Type in my name. I got a little TikTok action too. Whatever you want.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you.